to you, Philip. The ceasefire is over. Why? How did it come to an end?
I think this is the moment that many people have been more or less dreading. I think especially if you're living in the Gaza Strip, that the bombing raids are going to start again. And basically there's no way out for the nearly 2 million civilians who are in the Gaza Strip, who now face more misery and deprivation of goods and the way of leading a normal life. It all came crashing to an end about 5 hours ago, just over 5 hours ago, at 6 a.m. Local time here in Paris, 5 a.m. on the ground in the Gaza Strip and in Israel. What appears to have happened is that overnight, Hamas produced a list of hostages it was willing to release, which included several dead hostages on the list. Israel said it wasn't interested in that. It wanted a new list. It also accused Hamas of not putting on several names of several female hostages that it had earlier promised to release. So they asked for a new list to be submitted to the Israeli authorities for approval. That list didn't come. Then there was a debate that took place within the Israeli government about whether or not to accept the first list just to carry on with the ceasefire. But the decision was taken not to accept that when there was a rocket launch in the Gaza Strip overnight, which was intercepted by the Iron Dome unit in Israel, which stopped that rocket from hitting any Israeli city or town. So I think the feeling from Israel was that Hamas wasn't taking this particularly seriously, and that was the reason that it was taken. That was the decision was taken to end that truce and to begin the bombing raids again from 5 a.m. local time this morning in the Gaza Strip.
Since the war began, the U.S. Secretary of State made 3 trips to the region, 4 trips to Israel itself. Antony Blinken making calls for the ceasefire to be prolonged. How frustrated is he feeling?
I think there's a lot of frustration. If you look at what Israel has been calling for all the way down the line here, their objectives, they've got a 3-point plan, which is no secret. It's been the plan since the start of the bombing raids on Gaza after the attacks in Israel on the 7th of October. To crush Hamas is the first one. The second one is to end Hamas's influence in Gaza and all other militant groups in the future, so they will no longer pose a threat to Israel. And the third one is to obtain the release of all hostages. Well, that is not really very surprising then if you take that into account, that Israel has started these bombing raids again. I think the frustration has come from the fact that all parties involved, be it Qatar, be it Egypt, be it the United States, all trying to negotiate around the table with Israel and Hamas to broker a prolongation of that ceasefire deal, have not worked. And especially for the United States, which is seen as the only country that has leeway and power over Israel and would be able to twist Israel's arm to accept a prolongation of this ceasefire. So a lot of questions being raised as to, well, does the US still have that influence over Israel that it used to have? When you have Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, who's been replying to all those efforts to keep the ceasefire going by saying that Israel is going to do what Israel sees fit to continue with the situation in Gaza. The problem is also that they know that the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, needs a military victory to shore up support within his own government, because he's under criticism and can't give too much leeway to Hamas, because he'll be going against his plan, as I was just saying, in trying to say that he's going to destroy Hamas. And at the same time, Hamas can't carry on handing out hostages to Israel because it's going to undermine its own ability to stand up to Israel. So we've got to the point where all the women, the children, the elderly, the infirm, bar a few, have now been released. What is left is male hostages over the age of about 18, plus members of the Israeli Defense Forces who are being held by Hamas. They're much more useful as a bargaining chip for Hamas, which doesn't really want to release them right now because it will make Israel think twice about launching bombing raids if it knows it's going to kill its own hostages by doing that. And that's also going to incur the wrath and pressure from the United States and other countries for them to come to the negotiating table. So it's a whole lot of different elements all brought together, and that's why I think we can explain why these bombing raids have started again today.
After nearly 2 months of fighting, is it any clearer, the long-term plan for Gaza?
No, not really, because if you look at what is on the cards or what has been discussed with Gaza, to get rid of Hamas's ideology and the militant group, that's going to be very difficult for Israel. It hasn't managed to get rid of Hezbollah either after threatening to do so and trying to do so for several years. Second point, is the Palestinian Authority able to come in and take over the running of Gaza? That doesn't seem to be on the cards either, because it's discredited even in the West Bank. Is the international community ready to send in a peacekeeping force? That doesn't look likely either, because I don't think any country wants to send its own peacekeepers into Gaza where they'd be under threat. So all of this looks pretty desperate right now, and no real clear plan forward.
All right, Philip, thank you very much. Philip Turle, our foreign editor.